Okay, let's step back in the whitetail playbook for this property just outside of Bondwell, Wisconsin. A beautiful 20 acres, a nice rectangular shape. Half of it is already in ag. I'm thinking food plots here. And there's a natural boundary right here on this fence line that's an L shape. That would allow me to block the back part of this food plot area with either some spruce, some giant miscanthus, some really good travel lanes here for deer and human traffic getting back in here. The other thing I'm looking at, I could put a cabin up here, I could put a house up here, just a beautiful property to do everything on. Deer, turkeys, small game, and the headwaters of the Slab City Creek run right through the property. How cool is that? The other thing I'm going to look at immediately is where could I put my Orion blinds? Well, there's like right here, I'm looking at this right here. That's going to probably be, if I had this property, probably be a nice hunting plot. And I could put my blinds on, basically I could almost surround that spot. It looks to me, it's well over an acre. That's a good sized plot. I can cover any wind direction and I can get back there easily off the west side of this property. If I'm planning up front, I would probably do that in stages and strips because the deer are naturally going to gravitate there, probably for evening hunts. So I would keep that in mind as far as where I'm going to put my blinds in relation to predominant winds, which I already know are going to be a lot of northwest winds. There's going to be some north winds in the late fall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place those strategically and plant strategically with my analogics to make sure the deer are utilizing those when I want to hunt them. When I'm looking at a property like this, a couple things, like I say always, is where's my deer factory? I have eggs surrounding me and I also have lots of big woods surrounding me. And I've got some kettle lakes. When I see lakes, these are on the neighbor's property, but I see natural runways coming through these lakes into this property. So what I want to do is create this even more deer friendly by adding a little bit more cover and a little bit more security from the neighbors, which I know they're not hunting this side, but what I might do is I either might clear cut a side of this right along the property line. I might do some hinge cutting. That's going to allow those buck beds to be tighter and even right on my property. So when I'm looking at that, I can do everything. I can hunt, I can fish, I could have my cabin up here, my house up here, enjoy everything only minutes from town. You really can't ask for much better than that.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Orion Hunting Products. Engineered for stealth and safety, Orion's modular, lightweight design allows you to set up camp anywhere you want to hunt. No heavy equipment, no problem. Orion Hunting Products.
Hey, don't go away. Later in the show, I'm going to be hunting a Wisconsin property very similar to this one, where we put a food plot in at the last minute and we had deer up close and personal in no time.
Hey, Tim here from Analogics Outdoors. Today I want to talk to you about palatability in food plots and how that changes throughout the hunting season. So we all want to attract deer to our food plots, and one great way to do that is to give them something that they are looking for at the time of year that you're going to be hunting. So Analogics has come out with a product called the Perfect 10, and what that is, it's 10 different species that are going to mature at different times of the hunting season. So you've got your early season plants, you've got your mid-season plants, and then you've got your late season plants. So, you know, right off the bat, it's got some forage oats, there's some winter wheat, there's some cereal rye. That's gonna pop early. The deer are gonna hit that. And then throughout the hunting season, the other annuals that are in that blend are gonna start becoming more attractive. Palatability for deer is basically just how the plants taste to them and what they are selecting. So deer are called concentrate selectors. They're not like a cow that's in a pasture and just taking massive bites of all the green that's around them. Deer actually specifically target the tender bits and the ends of plants. So they'll go along and they'll take the very nutritious ends of the plants that are high in protein, highly digestible. The palatability from every food plot plant changes throughout that season. So what is good at the beginning of the year isn't going to be the exact same in the deer's ability to know how good it is for them throughout the entire year. So that's why the 10 different plants really come in handy in trying to get the deer there and keep them there throughout the entire hunting season. You think about a deer in the early part of the hunting season, they're going to try and pack on as much nutrition as they can ahead of the rut. They're also getting their bodies all the energy and all the nutrients that they need to survive the winter. So this has all the nutrients in it, and you're going to keep those deer in that area so that you can come back and target them throughout the hunting season. So with the early season attraction, like I said, we've got the quick growing plants, and then there's the things like radishes and turnips, the high carbohydrate plants. Deer need a lot of carbohydrates and energy to get through the cold period, and after the surrounding area has lost a lot of its protein sources, that's when those high carb plants become more palatable to the deer. I've heard guys talk about that the sugars change when the frost hits them, but really it's the other plants in the area have changed around them, so they are targeting the things that are high in carbohydrates at that time. It really doesn't have much to do with the frost changing the sugar content of the plants themselves. So.
Kill that, and then we get tilled up and planted. It's going to be pretty awesome. You know, we often talk about the average guy or gal and how they can become a better deer hunter by doing this, that, or the other thing. And it's the same thing with land management. You know, you don't have to own hundreds of acres of land, and you don't have to have all this expensive equipment. Maybe have a couple friends that you can call in some favors, and you can take a piece of nondescript land and turn it into a real deer hunting paradise with just a few easy steps. Kill it, till it, kill it, and plant it. And that's exactly what I did. I went in and hand seeded it, and then for the lack of having anything else, I just took my pickup truck and just drove over that plot a few times just to get that seed into the ground. It worked.
Hey everybody, Jason Rickman here with DDH Properties. Coming up next is our segment on what I feel like might be your best approach to buy your dream hunting land. You're watching Deer Hunting Properties. So when we're looking at land and we're looking at possible, hey, we're looking for that land that is move-in ready type of land where we don't have to do anything versus the land where we have a lot of things to do to make it what we're looking for, you know, that's the key. We go out there, we find that property, we identify it. So the first thing we would do is we would identify that land, we would take a drive out there, and we'll actually walk the property, right? So if I'm walking swampland, I'm bringing those boots that day, and we're gonna go through it, and we're gonna try to find it, you know, during the time of the year where maybe it's at its worst. So we know exactly what we're getting in worst case scenario. So through there, you know, we check out the property, we see what it has for timber, you know. Does it have just all dying ash? Does it have some tamarack? You know, is it a cedar swamp? What are we looking at there? You know, and as we go through that land, we're gonna check out for, you know, travel patterns for the deer, or is there a possibility for some highland that we can actually put some type of food plot in there to add some value to your property? You know, what is there for existing tree stands? You know, is there any? Was it ever hunted? You know, we want to look at that, but more importantly, we want to look at the neighboring land around us too, to see, hey, what type of parcels are there? Are there smaller parcels? Are there bigger parcels around us? You know, is there ag on sides of us? Are there pinch points that we can look for that on that land that will help us get some extra value out of this land? You know, those are things we're going to look for when we're starting out with our first property or maybe our second property. You know, it's every guy's dream that's a hunter to own their own property, right? So we got to start somewhere. I know for me, I was sick of always hunting somebody else's land and really having to abide by what they wanted. That was tough for me, right? So owning that land for that first time is something special. So we definitely need to start out there. You know, then maybe it's a buyer that's looking for their second or third or fourth property, and they're stepped up from, you know, the swampland or the wetlands, and now we're trying to identify what that is. That's going to be more of, hey, there possibly is a building site. Maybe there's no building site, but there's some good areas for some ag that we can put some food plots in. There's more timber in there. There's better timber, more mature timber in there. And when we identify that, we're going to go through the same steps. You know, we're going to recognize, hey, is this property already at its max value? Did the seller do everything possible to max this property out? Or is there some room for us? You know, is there room for us to put in those food plots that weren't there? Some hinge cutting, you know, add some bedding. You know, is there some water hole spots that we can put in there? You know, is there any room to put any egg on there that we can cash crop and get some income from? You know, so that property is going to be a little more higher end, right? You're gonna spend more for it, but typically that buyer has gone through the first couple properties to start out with and now is ready for that next one. And then really that third property that a lot of the buyers that have been hunting for a while and have owned multiple different properties, that's the one that has really everything, right? It already has the food plots established. It has a decent amount of ag. You know, when I look at a property on the high-end scale, I'm looking for something where it's got good income potential, at least 50%, maybe even a tad more, but also has that hunting side of things. You know, it has the food, it has the sleep quarters for those monster bucks, it's got the water, it allows me to hunt turkeys, it allows me to hunt waterfowl, maybe even pheasants, but it also gives me some really good possible neighbors around me. Also, hey, can I have CRP on there to get some cash? Is there a cattle rancher that I can get some cash from? Is it egg that a farmer is going to farm for me and I'm getting cash? So I'm getting some cash flow. You know, when I look at those properties, that offsets some of the cost of going to that higher dollar amount. So when I'm looking at that, I'm looking for those things. And some are just looking for an investment. Maybe there's an option to be able to lease out your land to hunters. So now you're really getting into a nice cash flow situation with your property.
I said if a doe shows up, I'm not shooting it because, you know, there's these 2 bucks around and I want to maybe get one of those bucks. I couldn't help myself.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Analogics, perfecting the science of deer feed. Ready to harvest a giant? Let Analogics help you attract, hold, pattern, and grow trophy bucks. Analogics, because there is no off-season.
Hey, Tim Newman here from Analogics Outdoors. Today we're talking food plots, and if you haven't had time to do a soil sample, if you're like me, you're busy, you don't know what to do fertility-wise to have the best plot possible. So if you haven't done a soil sample and you don't know exactly what to put out, just do a general 2,000 pounds per acre of lime. That will make sure your pH is where it needs to be. And then you can look at your soil and guess if you've got high, medium, or low soil fertility, and check out analogics.com. We have a neat fertility guide based on what product you're planting. It'll give you recommendations for what fertilizers to put out. So if you didn't even have time or you couldn't get internet signal, I would just say put out 500 pounds of 13-13-13 per acre, and you'll get some fertilizer use out of it, and enjoy your plot.
I just gotta make one more good pass up the middle. The seeds are in the ground, they're starting to grow. I'm starting to see deer show up. I'm getting pretty excited. So now my hunting tactics kick in. I gotta strategize. I'm not gonna hunt that plot unless the conditions are perfect. I had a ground blind and it was tucked in off of the food plot, which is new for me because I'm normally hunting out of tree stands. Tree stand wasn't an option in this situation. I brushed that blind in over a month before the season because I was preparing for this. The other key to the success was making sure I didn't hunt that until the wind was right. And it took us about a week into the season before those conditions were perfect. We went out there, I was out there with my cameraman David Glenn, and I told him immediately, which is unlike me, I said if a doe shows up, I'm not shooting it because, you know, there's these 2 bucks around and I want to maybe get one of those bucks. I couldn't help myself. Just made venison. Ballad of Fabulous. But it's early. We've got a big doe on the ground. I know we do. But now we're gonna hunt for a buck. Maybe an hour goes by. We look out the window. Here comes 2 bucks. Thwap, crossbow goes off. I just see that arrow perfect right behind the shoulder. I looked at David, sorry man. He had to take his camera off the tripod. We are in a small little ground blind, and if you can envision this, sitting like this side by side, and when you got a camera on a tripod, it's not really conducive for getting a shot on film. That's on me, my bad. But when I saw that fletching go behind that deer's shoulder, I knew the celebration was on. Man, those things can go a long ways. Shot was a little far forward, but we got her. Good deal. Let's go find the buck now. Blood trail number 2 was a thing of beauty. That buck was slightly quartering away when I shot him. He maybe made it 50 yards into the woods, and oh my gosh, was I excited. Just a beautiful buck in a beautiful spot in what was formerly fallow land, but now is fantastic.
He's dead. We did it, 50 yards.
Dear Lord, thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you for this wonderful gift. May this buck's memory nourish our souls, and may his body nourish our bodies. And this we pray through Jesus in his name, amen. What a pretty buck.